Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Prelude for my brand new Kaiserreich series. I decided it had been long enough since I played some Kaiserreich, so just found an excuse to start a new series of it. That being because I feel like it. Now, this series is going to be largely done with Twitch live streams that I will edit after the fact, but I am going to record this prelude and the first video of the series as YouTube videos. So that's going to be a thing. Anyways, there's not really a whole lot to talk about here because this is Kaiserreich. I'm playing Kaiserreich. So we'll go into new game and I'll explain things over the backdrop of the country I'm going to be playing as, because for the first time ever in Kaiserreich, I'm going to be playing as the German Empire. I've never actually played as Germany before. The only countries I really play in Kaiserreich are Russia, Canada, the Union of Britain, and the Qing Empire, along with a few others I've dabbled in, but I've never even touched Germany, outside of the Darkest Hour version of the mod. And I've been getting a lot of recommendations from people I know who play a lot of Kaiserreich that I really should check out Germany, so I'm going to. And as for what our objectives will be in this playthrough, I have a handful of them, though I may come up with some more as things go on. Obviously, we want to maintain German imperial power, meaning we want to keep the empire together, if at all possible, and I'm not sure if or how we can manage this, but I would like to keep Mittleafrika. I would like to keep Mittleafrika from dissolving, because those of you who watched my Soviet Republic series that I did a while back, you will know that in the current version, Mittleafrika has a tendency to dissolve into a bazillion different pieces. So I'd like to prevent that if possible. We would also like to kick the asses of the Internationale and make France another puppet state, being the conclusion. And if the Netherlands decide to go communist on us, then it may be time for a friendly invasion. Things like that. But we are going to be playing as Germany, and if all else fails, then the series will end when either 1, we get to a point where we're making literally no progress at all, which is a milestone I've used to end series in the past, unfortunately. 2, we have accomplished all of our goals, and I don't really feel like adding any new ones. 3, we have hit the end scenario date, being 1948. 4, the game's performance has gotten so bad in the end game that it's impossible to do anything else. And finally, we'll of course end it if we win. But I should probably take this opportunity to go over the thingamawhatsit that Germany has, and then I'm going to read their history, because that's one thing I'm going to try to do in this series that I do in basically all my Kaiserreich series. I will try to read all of the text where applicable. Of course, when we get into the later parts of the game, then I am going to be only reading the important stuff and just skipping over the minor events and summarizing them. But we have Germany. Our leader is Wilhelm II. We are authoritarian Democrats, ideology and government. We have elections in March 1937, and our ruling party is the DKP. And basically the way I understand authoritarian Democrat in the context of Kaiserreich is It's a democracy in name only, as in, they have elections and everything, but the Kaiser can overrule them. So it's an absolute monarchy or authoritarian state that pretends to be democratic, is essentially what this is, because the Kaiser can still, even though they have elections and everything, go, yeah, screw you, we're doing what I want, and completely override the democratically elected assembly. That is a thing. But for our national spirits, we have Victors of the Weltkrieg, which gives us a massive reduction in our research speed for land, naval, and air doctrine. This is kind of similar to the thing the French have in the vanilla game, only this one is a lot more extreme. I think the French is only like 40% or something, and I don't remember if it involves air doctrines. It's been a long time since I played France in vanilla Kaiserreich, or since, vanilla Hearts of Iron 4, or since I played vanilla Hearts of Iron 4 for that matter, so I just don't remember, but I know this one is a lot more extreme. Other than that, we have Quenched Militarism, which reduces our recruitable population, division recovery rate, and war support. Because after sending a good part of an entire generation to die in the trenches of World War I, the German populace is not so keen on the idea of a second European war. So you won't get much support for a war at the start of the game. Final thing we have is Mittleafrika. We are the leader of Mittleafrika, an economic cooperation pact that helps us to project power. I'll get more into the whole Mittleafrika thing once we actually load into the game. And there's a couple of things over here that we could do that are some options from the tree and the focus tree. But now on to our history. In 1919, after 5 years of war, the German army finally overran the Entente defenses in France. In 1921, Britain's surrender followed. The Weltkrieg has made Germany an uncontested world power, yet things have been going downhill for her since the 1930s. A recessive world economy has dampened the nation's industrial output, while other nations' manufacturing power recovers, and now nationalism grows in Germany's eastern client states. We're starting to drift away from the Reich. In 1936, Germany stands at a crossroads, and already we can see cracks in her mighty empire, as her ancestral enemies are regaining their former strength. Okay. That's it. We have those, but there are two more of the national spirits we have, which weren't visible because of size by things. Imperial Pride. So, other nations that invade us and start taking our territory will have to do a little bit more work to get Germany to surrender. And Legation City dividends. Basically what that is Legation Cities here is a collection of wealthy coastal ports in China that are jointly ruled by Germany, Russia, the United States, Canada, and National France, I think. And we all get some profits out of that, which is boosting our factory output. That's basically what's going on there. And for what options we're going to go for, I'm going to stick it on regular difficulty. Much as I enjoy Kaiserreich and Hearts of Iron 4, I've never been very good at it. I'll also leave all of the nation buffs flat, and we can receive all news. And we'll leave the map names on English. So, just leaving everything as is then. So now, without further ado, let's get into the game so we can have a better look at the diplomatic situation. And I should mention this now, just because it's going to be relevant. I do have a handful of mods that I am using for this playthrough, in addition to Kaiserreich. I have the Kaiserreich music mods, which are going to play merry hell with the copyright on YouTube, but since I don't make money off of my channel, I don't give a crap. And I'll just have the music mods on there because the music is awesome. I also have the colored buttons and colored puppets mods. That's basically it. Pop-up gibberish I don't care about. Yes, yes. So now we have, this is what everything looks like. We have a lot of puppets. At the moment, Germany rules over the United Baltic Duchy, Lithuania, and White Ruthenia as satellite states. Ukraine is an independent ally, and not a puppet. Though I've heard that in some upcoming version of the mod, they're actually planning on changing that so Ukraine is also a puppet. Which would kind of make sense. That was part of the territory that Germany took off of Russia in the Treaty of Brest-Litovsk, so it doesn't make much sense that Ukraine would be independent, whereas the Baltics would all be puppet states. Speaking of puppet states, we also have Flanders-Wallonia, formerly Belgium, as a puppet. And down in Africa, we have the Kingdom of Morocco as a German puppet, since when Germany won the First World War, they took a whole bunch of territory off of France, including the parts of Morocco not ruled by the Spanish. In addition to that, we have Mittleafrika as a puppet, which is essentially a giant conglomerate of all of the German colonies in Africa, minus stuff like Madagascar and Morocco. This is a German puppet state. In addition to that, if we move over to the Far East, we have German East Asia, essentially Indochina and Malaysia. It's all ruled by a German colonial state, basically. Then there's our final puppet of the AOG. And frankly, I am so glad they changed the name from Aster Ostelsamein Gesellschaft or whatever, because that was such a pain in the ass name to try and pronounce. It really was. Speaking of AOG, apparently they have some armies in the Yunnan clique. Not sure how they're pulling that off. Really not. But that's what that whole thing looks like. And down in Austria, the Austro-Hungarian Empire is having some issues. As you can see. The Austro-Hungarians, well, the Austrians rather, weren't able to keep together as one contiguous empire, and basically what happened is there's an event based on a historical thing that would happen during the Austro-Hungarian Empire, during the existence of Austria-Hungary, where they would have to renegotiate the terms of their empire, and basically every 4 years or something like that. And it was mainly between the Austrians and the Hungarians, but during the last one before this, 1932 or 1933, I think. 33 it would have been, I think, because I'm pretty sure this takes place in 37. But during that, negotiations completely broke down, and they had to call in the Germans for assistance and get things sorted out that way, which resulted in Austria having to grant autonomy to basically most of their empire. So the empire still exists, but Hungary, Illyria, Bohemia, and Galicia-Lodomeria are all puppets of the Austrian Empire. The Italian Republic is not an Austrian puppet. But they do grant Austria military access and have their independence guaranteed by them. So, I think before we really get started, I should take the time to explain why the world looks the way it is just because of German victory in World War I. So here's what happened. After Germany beat France, like in our real history where when France defeated the Germans, you had all the extremist movements rising up in the east, Hitler taking power, a dictator's seizing power in Romania, and Stalin, of course, and things like that. In this case, since the war was lost over here in the West, in France and all that, that is where all the extremist movements popped up. So, the Third French Republic, I think it was, or was it Fourth? I'm never sure about that. France has had so many republics, I can't keep track of them, but they were their government was driven out of the country and had to take refuge in their former African colonies, minus Morocco, of course, which is German now, and a communist dictatorship, essentially, led by syndicalists. Radical communists, essentially, took power in France. And then something similar happened in Britain a little bit after that, where the British were none too happy about the outcome of the war. Even if their peace treaty with the Germans did mean they got to keep all their territories, it was a huge blow to national prestige and such. So, a coal strike or something like that escalated into a massive revolt against the government, and all the royalists had to flee over to Canada, which is now the home of the British royal family, and the Union of Britain was set up as a union of trade, as a bunch of trade unions that run the government. They're also syndicalist. And there's a lot of other map differences that we'll get into, but other than that, there's the fact that Ireland has Northern Ireland, but Italy is divided into a bunch of different pieces. It used to just be the Italian Republic owned the north, including Rome, and the Socialist Republic of Italy with all that southern stuff. And the Italian Republic had both Corsica and Sardinia. That's not the case anymore. Sardinia is an independent nation, and the French Republic has Corsica. And changed up Italy a bunch, as you can see. The Italian Republic is no longer dominant in northern Italy, and the papacy is actually an independent state. Incidentally, it'd be kind of neat to see someone do a playthrough of the papacy sometime. I wouldn't want to try and manage it myself, but That would be pretty neat to see if it would be possible to unify Italy as the Pope. Kinda cool if that would be possible. But the other main things that actually resulted in this whole thing, like, one of the main reasons that Germany ended up winning the First World War is actually they didn't antagonize the Americans into joining the Allies and fighting against them, because in our real history, Germany both reintroduced unrestricted submarine warfare, and it was either late 1917 or early 1918, I don't exactly remember, and sent the Zimmerman telegraph to say to Mexico, hey, why don't you attack the US and take the territory you lost from them in the Mexican-American War? And we'll totally back you with that, with cash and stuff. The British intercepted it, they showed it to the Americans, America got pissed and joined the Allies. So, best I can tell, that never happened in this timeline. The Germans never reintroduced unrestricted submarine warfare, so America stayed out of it, and I don't actually know for sure, but I suspect that the Germans also didn't send the Zimmerman telegraph. India is also in a bunch of different pieces, with Germany owning part of it. I know there was something to do with some revolts after Britain fell, but the Dominion of India is basically what remains the British East India Company. I do not know the slightest thing about why India ended up like that, or why China is in a bazillion pieces. Except, I do know that Germany, post-World War I Germany, considered the Republic of China's government to be illegitimate. And that has something to do with why China is in pieces and a German puppet state controls southern China. Other than that, there's really only one other thing to go over of any real importance, and it's the reason why Russia is not communist. You see, after Russia had their revolution and overthrew the royal family in 1917, they made peace with Germany. They had to give up the Baltics and the Ukraine and Poland to do it, but they did achieve peace, which allowed Germany to send their troops west and fight the French and British, which in this resulted in a German victory. But what happened then was Germany, it was more than a little bit uneasy about the prospect of having a hostile communist state, especially one as large as Russia, on their eastern border. They sent troops into Russia. They agreed to help the whites defeat the Reds in exchange for the whites acknowledging the Treaty of Brest-Litovsk, which was the treaty that gave away all of these states to Germany. And Germany helped the whites crush the Reds, so the whites won the Russian Civil War. And Russia is kind of a mess in this timeline. For one thing, Kerensky is still in charge of Russia, and he's kind of useless at his job aside from just maintaining the status quo. And minor spoilers incoming, but Kerensky's actually not going to live very long. He's going to end up a little bit on the dead side in the future. That's going to be a thing. Oh wait, I almost forgot one other thing that's important. Basically, when the British royal government fell, some German admiral took that as an advantage to have Germany help themselves to certain British colonies. So, all British overseas possessions, with the exception of India, and some bits of territory in the Americas, now belong to Germany. India, obviously, the territory either fell to some communist group or whatever the hell the Princely Federation or Madras are. Germany just managed to get Ceylon. But the Germans got also basically all of Malaysia. And as I think I mentioned before, they took Indochina off of France in their original peace treaty at the end of the war, which resulted in France losing all of their overseas colonies except for this bit here. Meaning that Germany is now the most powerful nation in the world, but they're a little bit overstretched, really. We have a very large empire, but not necessarily the army or navy to properly patrol it. So Germany and Kaiserreich, in that vein, is very much in a similar situation that the British Empire is in Vanilla Hearts of Iron 4. They're very large, they have an extremely powerful empire, and can bring in tons of resources all the time. But at the same time, they're a little bit overextended. They don't have the military force to properly protect their empire. And their economy is beginning to tank. So, the thing that I've heard most that I kind of like the idea of with playing as Germany, though, is that you have a little bit of a buffer. You can make some mistakes, you can screw up a few things, and it won't completely shaft you. Whereas with Russia or the United States, you can make one or two seemingly vague mistakes and only discover a year or two later that something you've done has screwed you over so badly that you are going to lose the war. Germany, you have a little bit of a padding, and that's not so much of an issue. But I think that'll do it for this introductory video, and we'll pick this up next time when we will be commencing this playthrough by setting up our research and all that jazz, and seeing what catastrophe Germany has to deal with first. This is going to be an interesting playthrough, though, because I'm going to be doing a lot more in terms of proxy wars, helping out with sending my troops off into foreign civil wars and things, which is something I've never really gone all that deep into in Kaiserreich. But I'll see you next time, everybody.